here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's December 27th here in Seoul. I'm Shin-Yun, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Cheska Dain-hong.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, and Park Ki-hoon.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. A recent survey by the Culture Ministry and a tourism organization showed that 6 out of 10 South Koreans had a very high level of satisfaction when it comes to enjoying their leisure time. This was the highest proportion recorded since 2012, and the figure went up by 4.1 percentage points compared to last year. The survey was done on some 10,000 Koreans aged 15 and up. It also found that the average amount of money that people surveyed would spend for their leisure time was around $155 a month, which was also up by around $20 compared to last year. Moving on to our second story, South Korea's unmanned lunar orbiter Danuri has released pictures it has taken on the moon, marking its one-year anniversary since it started its space mission. The Science Ministry on Tuesday showed the mosaic map compiled by Danuri. It shows polarized camera views of both the front and back side of the moon that Danuri has captured over the past 250 days. Danuri, also known as KPLO, was sent beyond Earth's orbit in December last year, equipped with 6 instruments to measure the lunar surface. While it was originally scheduled to finish its missions by the end of this year, it has been extended by 2 more to energy-saved processes. Now, on Christmas Day, a fire broke out in an apartment building in Dobong-gu district in northern Seoul that left 2 people dead and injured 30 others. Police and fire authorities have since pinpointed the reason behind this incident as simple negligence. Now, police said it seemed unlikely that the fire was caused by a short circuit or malfunctioning electrical equipment. They also said it's difficult to comment on the specific or conclusive evidence behind what caused the fire. But they specifically pointed to how the fire quickly spread, and that had to do with fire-resistant doors on all floors being left open. And under Korea's construction law, all apartment fireproof doors must be closed at all times or have a sensor that can detect fire and smoke and then automatically close. There were also other safety precautions the building just glossed over. Sprinklers were only installed from the 16th floor and above in the 23-story complex. And Korea's law requires sprinklers to be installed on all floors of an apartment complex that has more than 6 floors. And it's not just this building that didn't abide by South Korea's construction and safety regulations. The reality is many buildings out there do that because it's very difficult for authorities to monitor and regulate each one. Now, here in the studio, this was some upsetting news that we saw over Christmas. What did you guys think about the story and the lack of monitoring when it comes to safety regulations here in Korea?
It's obviously a tragic incident that happened on Christmas Day, but it was reported very recently, a couple of hours ago, the police have found a cigarette butt and a lighter in one of the units from the 3rd floor, which they suspect where this fire started.
Oh, I see.
But unfortunately, like, people who lost their lives were people who lived on the 4th floor, which is very unfortunate. And this may be crucial evidence to where the actual fire had begun. And aside from the residents, inconsiderate behavior of actually smoking in an apartment, I think authorities should actually do their duty to crack down on all construction companies who do not follow these regulations and abiding the law. Maybe perhaps due to simple negligence or just trying to save costs and trying to get away with it. This should not be accepted in any case moving forward.
Exactly. Cheska, would you like to add anything onto that?
Sure. I mean, I absolutely agree with Ki-hoon. This isn't the first time that there was illegal indoor smoking. And if that were the case, I do believe that, the authorities should really crack down on any sort of illegal behavior that could cause, damages and pain to the people who are not part of the illegal act, basically. And also the fact that there have been negligence in terms of construction, I think is a huge issue. As you know, in Korea, pretty much everyone lives in either the apartments or the villas that are usually about 5 stories and taller, which means that if fire were to happen like this, there's going to be huge chaos and safety issues caused by people. And as always, these tragedies need to happen for the authorities to take action and then change the policies or revamp. So I really hope that this tragedy that happened on Christmas gives some alert to the authorities on what is really important.
And not just the authorities, I think the general public also has to have a better keen understanding on what type of safety regulations they need to keep, and negligence shouldn't risk any lives. And I hope that message is better delivered. And that was our news feed for today. Let's now switch gears to our main discussion topic of the day. In a few days, we'll be wrapping up the year 2023. That's why this week we've been looking back at what's happened over the past year. We started yesterday with the most memorable South Korean of the year. And on today's episode, we're going to cover the hottest or pressing issues of the year, whether that has to do with current affairs or what the average Korean went through on a daily basis. So I went to do a street interview to hear what some people in Seoul had to say. Take a look at the screen.
제가 생각하기에는 아무래도 방탄소년단들이 모두 입대를 한 게 제일 저에게는 가장 큰 이슈였던 기억이 나요. 왜냐하면 제가 노래를 좋아하고 K-팝을 좋아하다 보니까 아무래도 한국 남자라면은 모두 다녀와야 되기 때문에 그래도 자랑스럽게 생각하고 있습니다.
우리나라의 저출산 문제가 가장 큰 이슈인 것 같아요. 왜냐면 요즘에 뉴스에서 많이 접하게 되었는데 또 많은 젊은 세대들이 이제 결혼 생각이 많이 없고 이유가 이제 저희 나라 물가도 많이 오르고 그게 가장 큰 문제인 것 같아서 많이 이제 결혼을 많이 안 하는 것 같습니다.
Probably the war in Israel. That definitely caught my attention. I don't know, I think I happened to watch the news and just seeing hostages taken, it's terrible.
제 주변 지인분들도 당했다시피 좀 전세 사기 쪽이 좀 많이 이슈화 되지 않았었나 싶기도 하고, 당장 이게 내년에는 좀 어떤 나라 정책들이 좋아져가지고 이런 게 해결되게 되면 좋긴 하겠지만, 근데 이게 워낙 숨어있는 피해자들이 하도 많다 보니까 이게 과연 내년에도 해결이 될지 모르겠어요. 그냥 개인적인 바람이 있다면, 저도 전세를 살고 있긴 하지만 좀 이런 안 좋은 것들로 인해서 전세를 살고 계신 분들이 좀 많이 피해를 안 받을 수 있도록 그런 게 좀 좋아졌으면 좋겠습니다.
이제 아파트에 곧 이사를 하는데 금리가 좀 안정화됐으면 좋겠어요. 하루하루 변동금리 때문에 어제는 뭐 금리가 이렇게 됐고 오늘은 좀 떨어졌는데 이걸 갈아타야 되냐 이런 얘기가 정말 많거든요. 정책적으로 좀 안정화되는 금리 정책이 좀 생겼으면 좋겠습니다.
저는 챗GPT라고 생각해요. 원래 저희가 과제를 할 때 인터넷에서 많이 찾아보잖아요. 근데 챗GPT가 도입되고 난 후에는 애들이 진짜 대부분 다 챗GPT로 돌리고 모든 과제를 챗GPT를 쓰는 것 같아서 정말 큰 도움도 되고 이슈도 되고 논란도 되었던 것 같아요.
As we just saw, there were lots of incidents and issues that have shaken up not only Korea, but countries around the world this year. Namely, as many of the people I interviewed pointed out, there was 2 large-scale wars that affected events this year. And Cheska, why don't we start there? Let's delve into the war between Israel and Hamas.
You know, it really pains me to even have to talk about the war that's happening right now in a time where, we have advanced so far in technology and just human lives. In this frame of time, just when we were getting over the Russia-Ukraine war, in October, Hamas launched a massive attack and Israel began the retaliation, launching into a full-out war. Again, heart-wrenching as it is, but I think we have to face the facts and see this preposterous and outrageous pain and suffering people are going through at the moment. So more than 67% of all the deaths in Gaza were made up of women and children, and almost 2 million people, according to the United Nations, are currently displaced, not to mention some of the most reprehensible and awful war crimes that are happening to women and children at this time. Again, as much as it hurts me to bring this up, and on one of the last days of the year, I think it is important that we acknowledge these tragedies so that they really never, ever happen again.
Exactly. Hopefully we won't see them happen again. But the sad reality is it's still ongoing.
It's very much ongoing, yeah.
The humanitarian crisis is ongoing and there seems to be no cease yet. And Kyun, another ongoing war that has affected not only just the countries that are involved, but the global economy in recent years is actually the Russian-Ukrainian war. So why don't you recap us on how the war has been developing and where it seems to be going now?
Sure. Sadly, the Russian-Ukraine war seems like it would drag on to the year 2024. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine broke out in February 2022. And since the outbreak of the war, according to the UN, at least 10,000 civilians, among them around 560 being children, have been killed, and over 18,500 have been injured so far. Now, Ukrainian troops started the year 2023 with high hopes, planning a counteroffensive against Russia. However, they're ending the year in big disappointment from the battlefield, with many troops kind of losing their hopes, especially with the anxiety about the future of Western aid. 22 months into the invasion of Ukraine, Russia has claimed 1/5 of Ukrainian territory. From the Ukraine side, it has won back half the land that Russian forces occupied from February 2022, but right now it seems quite difficult for them to win back any more area in the current situation. So, along with the Israel-Hamas war, the upcoming 2024 presidential election in the US and other global distractions, I think the war in Ukraine has been kind of overshadowed in recent months, but it's a war that must be resolved as soon as possible.
It's a war that must be resolved and something that we need to keep putting an attention on, especially since our generation, and as you mentioned, for both of these wars, people that are in our age group are also risking their lives out on the battlefield, as well as even younger ones, just taking their lives and they have nothing to do with it.
Exactly, the civilians and the young children.
Exactly, are being taken away. And as you both briefly mentioned, these wars are affecting even our generation, whether that be in economics or just on our daily basis. And I want to now focus on economy. What were some main economic issues of 2023 that our generation really looked out for?
I mean, I do want to move to something brighter, but unfortunately marked by recent conflicts and ongoing power play between the United States and China, coupled with pervasive international upheavals, as we mentioned, have all sort of resulted in a protracted state of influx in global oil prices and inflation rates. So regrettably, this has given rise to a sustained period of elevated inflation and surge in interest rates in South Korea as well. As we saw in the VCR from the interview, there is an unstabilization in terms of interest rates, which ultimately this kind of puts a huge strain on South Korean young people who leverage loans for their homes, and some are even resorting to having to sell their homes out again in order to really get out of debt or can't handle the fluctuating interest rates.
That's a very good point. Now, were there any other economic issues in 2023? I think we mentioned a few on NewsGen as well, but why don't you recap us there?
Yes, we have. Obviously, inflation took a big toll on many youngsters, as many of them are suffering from job insecurity and, of course, just lack of income in general compared to the older generation. And obviously, these are topics that we did tap on a few episodes back in NewsGen. Rising costs affected the way many youngsters spent their money, especially for their weddings. Usually it's a day where they actually spend a lot of money for the special day to celebrate it, but many youngsters actually did self-wedding photos rather than to take it in a proper studio. And they had bridal showers at home instead of like those expensive hotels where they would pop champagnes, invite all their friends and
they might
dress
still
up.
Pop champagnes,
but a cheaper one anyway. And like upload it on their social media and whatnot. And I think also many MZers went on this cash-only spending challenges where they would just spend cash only, and they would have to upload how much they spent on a group chat to motivate each other to, become, I guess, wiser consumers and like spend less, because if you have credit cards, you don't really know how much you're spending on a daily basis. So
that's a really good challenge.
I think overall the consumer behavior really changed to a more passive one throughout 2023.
I think that's so true, especially since we've also mentioned a few times on News Generation that consumer prices have gone up so high. Daily food or necessities are becoming so expensive to buy. We mentioned once 붕어빵, one of my favorite winter snacks. It's so expensive to buy. You could have like 3 붕어빵 with $1 before.
That's a good metric, actually.
I know. But now you can only have 1 with $1. So you can see like a lot of consumer prices going up, and that's definitely affecting our behavior. Now, I'd like to switch gears and talk about how the labor market has been affected with this economic situation. Any captivating issue when it comes to the labor market, and I think our generation would be in particular very interested in this topic, given that we take up a big part of this population.
Right, and as mentioned before, with any technology, I think the biggest sort of outbreak in 2023 was the ChatGPT and AI technology. I think, and also with any technology, I think the how matters more than what itself. As we know, ChatGPT was a huge sensation, an AI chatbot, that can be fed vast amounts of information to generate very quick, well-organized answers. And some are very excited, obviously, for the potential contribution it will bring to the advancement and betterment of our lives. As we know, pretty much everything that comes out these days has a hashtag AI next to it, whether it be AI cleaning bot or AI like dancing bot or whatever you name it. But I think the challenge is that how do we wield these tools more responsibly and prevent their misuse? Because obviously, as we continue to navigate this evolving landscape, the responsibility is pretty much on each and every one of us to harness these tools for our betterment, not abasement.
And I think I would like to mention generative AI has really shaken up the labor market as well. It really popped up questions as to will certain occupations still be in place by the end of this year and stuff like that. And also ethical issues have popped up. We mentioned here on NewsGen when we were covering fake news. How can we detect fake news apart from generative AI just generating all different types of headlines?
And AI generated crimes as well.
Exactly.
Face technology and this
deepfake
chatbots
technology
that generate these scams as well.
Exactly. And I think AI did play a big part this year. Were there any other issues you'd like to shed light on?
Yeah, looking into the current labor market here in Korea, there is an increase in the employment of the elderly population and a downward trend for people in their 20s over the past year. Many youngsters were kind of hesitant to join the workforce as full-timers due to their, I guess, high standards of work and, of course, the lacking the quality of jobs available and of course the working conditions. Many chose to do like higher paying part-time jobs or jumped into the red ocean of, I guess, wanting to become an influencer or content creator like through social media. But I think the concern of the general public is that Korea needs to, the Korea labor market needs to create more attractive jobs for the younger generation, for the sustainability of the Korean economy, because it's quite obvious, the younger generation will be the future of our country, and we're in a very declining birth rate trend right now, so it is a worrying sign. So I guess we need to help more young people to, just find better jobs to continue to support the economy.
Hopefully by providing counseling programs or any career path programs out there that could really boost up employment and actually the quality of work that we want to really see. Now, ending off on a lighter note, were there any other stories on culture or society that grabbed our generation's attention this year?
Hopefully I have some interesting testimonials that I can bring. So on my recent business trips to both Los Angeles and New York, I have actually felt and realized this K-culture boom, especially in the food industry. So one of the things that I was really surprised was, Kimbab?
Yes.
It's becoming one of a very hit product for frozen goods section. So as you can see, it's a vegetarian option, it's healthy, and it's obviously very tasty. So it was ranking very high in America's like frozen food section. Another thing that I really want to point out is that according to New York Times, top 23 American dishes of the year was 물회면, and top 8 dishes of New York City was 돼지곰탕. So let me just read a quote for you on what they described it as. So quote for 물회면, which is a noodle with sashimi and just very, very spicy and good. It says, quote, distinct at first, everything synchronizing in a bite that's deeply invigorating and bright any time of the year.
Strong words.
Great words to describe a Korean dish.
I know. And hear this, for 돼지곰탕, quote, it's always good, but especially welcome on those days when you get some news you were not hoping to get. It's how they described it.
That is so true, because whenever I go for 곰탕, it's when I'm a little upset.
Yeah, exactly.
It really just suits you down.
Comforting food.
It's comfort food, basically.
But these quotes were how the Americans described the Korean dish, and they were so poetic and so on one point, which I
Exactly.
found really surprising.
And I think it encapsulates the fact that Korean food is just garnering so much popularity around the world.
Absolutely.
Now, on that note, what would you say were some cultural or societal trends or issues here in Korea or elsewhere that really captivated our generation's attention?
Before I mention that, I just want to say that I love it how kimbap starts with K,
Yeah.
kimchi's K as well,
Yeah.
and maybe komtang.
The 3 Ks.
I love the K. Anyway, oppositely, Korea welcomed food from all over the world, including tanguru and maratang from China. Those two were huge hits here in Korea, especially among the younger generation. As you can see on the screen, that's tanguru right there. I actually tried one myself recently, and
Really?
it was so sweet that I didn't really like it, but I guess, many young people younger than me really enjoy that food.
I love it. Yeah.
However, it did cause health-related issues as there was a jump in diabetic patients. Over the past 5 years,
so sad.
there was an increase of 12% for people in their 20s and 6% in their 30s. And not only that, we saw a huge increase in the number of patients visiting the dentist for obvious reasons. And also, ever since the pandemic, as you can see on the screen, that's a big tummy right there. Also, young people are becoming more obese from reduced physical activity and just, their love for sweets. So we're definitely seeing more youngsters, younger patients with all sorts of health problems compared to the past. So this is something that we all need to take extra caution and care as individuals as well.
For sure, and you guys did a wonderful job today by really recapping what happened throughout the year. But very briefly, anything you're hoping to see in the year of 2024, starting with you, Cheska?
Yep, I definitely hope that K-culture doesn't become a trend, but a fabric of the world culture, so that we do become part of the mainstream. And another important thing is complete riddance and end to any war that is happening at the moment. It is an absolute crime, and I do hope that in 2024 we can celebrate the new year with much hopeful opening.
Hopefully we'll see some hopeful news. What about you, Kyun?
Along with ending of wars, I just hope that we don't see any other virus like COVID-19
really
spread
good one.
again, and that we are better prepared to tackle any kind of viruses coming at us.
So basically, health and happiness. We hope to see those two H's, health and happiness, hit 2024. In the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Cheska Dainhang.
Happy New Year, everyone!
Happy New Year! And happy
Always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.